does Trump promise a tariff miracle while your morning coffee price just hit a record high? Who's really paying? He says foreign nations, but why is your local Dollar Tree suddenly selling items for $7? How can bringing factories back home end up emptying your wallet instead? Why did a $12 billion farmer bailout end up trapping you in a high-interest mortgage?
Oh my God.
Welcome to Punchline Presents. I'm your friend who turns boring facts into punchlines. Today, let's talk about why American wallets are on the front lines of this trade war. Let's start with the tragedy we can all see. Imagine a regular shopper, Boston girl Alice. Alice walks into Dollar Tree expecting to find, well, things for $1, maybe $1.25. Instead, Alice finds price tags for $3, $5, even $7. It's not a Dollar Tree anymore, it's a $7 stump.
No!
And Alice isn't alone. Folks making over $100,000 a year are now shopping there, fighting Alice for the last reasonably priced spatula. And it's not just the discount stores. Executives at Walmart, the biggest retailer in the galaxy, essentially waved a white flag this year. They basically said,
"We've squeezed every penny, but we can't swallow these costs anymore."
And what was Trump's response?
They should just eat the tariffs.
Eat them? Walmart's net hovers is often around 3%. If they eat a 25% tariff with a 3% margin, they're not just losing weight, they're bleeding out. So naturally, Walmart doesn't bite the bullet. They pass it on to Alice.
No!
Trump claims China is picking up the tab, but let's look at the actual receipt. Picture a truck driver carrying a load of bananas from Mexico. He arrives at the US border. There's a giant toll booth installed by Trump. The border agent doesn't send a Venmo request to President Xi. He looks at the importer, the American company, and says,
That'll be 25% extra to cross, please.
The importer pays. Now that tax is a landed cost. To keep the lights on, the importer adds that cost to the wholesale price. The retailer then adds it to the price tag Alice sees at the register. Cold, hard data shows that by mid-2025, up to 80% of these costs were slapped directly onto the consumer's receipt. So, every time Trump brags about collecting billions, he is essentially celebrating a massive indirect tax hike on American families. Now, some might say, but if imports are expensive, we will just make everything in America. Problem solved. This brings us to the digging a well fallacy. Imagine Alice is in a desert, and she's thirsty, like really thirsty. Someone smacks the bottle of imported water out of her hand because it costs $2. They hand her a shovel and say,
Water is too expensive. Dig a well. It's American water.
Except, here's the reality. Digging a well takes years. Building a modern factory takes about 3 to 5 years. But Alice needs to drink today. So, while the well is being dug, Alice is forced to buy the remaining imported water, which now costs $10 because of the tariffs. Tariffs raise prices in 3 seconds. Factories take 3 years to build. Alice is subsidizing that time gap with her grocery money. Okay, you might think, but eventually we move production to places like India or Vietnam to avoid the tax, right? Let's look at the iPhone 17. In early 2025, Apple took a massive, high-stakes gamble, moving about 71% of US-bound iPhone production to India. But moving a supply chain isn't like moving a sofa. New factories, new workers training, bad roads. Turns out, moving a global supply chain is like changing your clothes while running a marathon in a rainstorm. You're gonna trip, and it's gonna be expensive. Initially, the yield rate was a disaster. Imagine baking 100 cookies and burning 50 of them. You still have to pay for the dough. They had to fly in hundreds of technicians from China just to fix the mess. This is what we call the efficiency tax. Even if you avoid the 60% China tariff, you're paying a 10% growing pains surcharge for infrastructure, training, and logistics. This is why the iPhone 17 Pro in the US saw a $100 price hike disguised as removing the 128 gigabytes version while prices in Taiwan and Japan remained stable. The difference? Those countries didn't have a geopolitical insurance premium added to their receipt. You might be thinking, if moving to India is such a headache, Why not just bring it all back home to the USA? That's our home turf, right? Well, this brings us to the ultimate dream. If the iPhone were 100% assembled in USA, we wouldn't be talking about a $100 price hike. We'd be talking about the Apple tax on steroids? This isn't politics, it's just math. Labor costs here are higher, much higher. Some analysts estimate an all-American iPhone could cost north of $2,000 or even $3,000. Trump claims bringing jobs back means prices stay the same. That ignores the reality of the American paycheck. So, we either pay the tariff tax, the efficiency tax, or the labor tax. Pick your poison. But the pain doesn't stop at your gadgets. It travels from the iPhone to the grocery store aisle. The American agricultural products also get more expensive. When the US dropped the tariff hammer, Mexico and China hit back hard. Suddenly, American farmers got ghosted by their biggest buyers to the tune of $5 billion.
No!
To stop the bleeding, the government announced the $12 billion Farmer Bridge Assistance FBA program. Think about this logic. The government taxes Alice's shoes to get money. The tax makes China angry, so China stops buying the farmer's soybeans. The government then takes the money from Alice's shoes and gives it to the farmer as a bridge. But the subsidy makes fertilizer and equipment prices stay high because there's no market pressure to lower them. But wait, there's more. That farmer subsidy becomes national debt. And when the government pays for that debt, they essentially print the difference. This devalues your dollar.
You guessed it, makes the milk and beef at the grocery store even more expensive.
As this subsidy debt snowballs, it's time for the economy's emergency response team to step in. This leads to the most painful part, the financial firefighters at the Federal Reserve. Think of economic problems as a raging fire. Usually, the firefighters use water-lowering interest rates to help the economy flow. But tariffs are like someone pouring gasoline on that fire every single morning. You can't fight a gasoline fire with water unless you want a massive fireball of inflation in your face. So, the firefighters are paralyzed. Their only tool left is the dry chemical extinguisher, high interest rates. It stops the fire, but it also suffocates everyone in the room. As long as the tariffs keep pouring gas, the firefighters cannot turn on the water, or inflation will spiral into a fireball. This is why Alice's car loan and mortgage are stuck at record highs.
Oh my God.
She's paying for the trade war twice, once at the grocery store and again every time she pays her bank. So Alice is broke, and she can't afford her house. How does the government respond? Trump said, affordability is a scam. Don't be dramatic. While consumer confidence drops to a record low, Trump's big solution? The 50-year mortgage. A debt so long, you'll be passing it down like a family heirloom. Think about that. Alice will be 90 years old before she owns her home. It's debt slavery rebranded as the ownership economy. You aren't buying a house, you're buying a 600-month subscription to a roof that you'll never actually own. So, let's look at the receipt.
From the $7 items at Dollar Tree, to the efficiency tax on your iPhone, to the 50-year mortgage you'll leave to your grandkids.
This wasn't about winning a trade war. It was about who catches the bill. Next time you look at a receipt, don't just see numbers. See the history of a trade war written in red ink and your own sweat. Maybe we should ask if we can pay that grocery bill with a Venmo request to a foreign country. Oh wait, we can't. Alice is the one with the Venmo account, and her balance is 0. Whoops! Thanks for watching Punchline Presents. To help us afford the rising cost, maybe hit subscribe. It's tax-free.
For now.